Welcome to Chris BI. My name is Chris Wagner, and today we're going to be going over interview questions around sourcing data for Power BI. Boom! Alliance is counting on you. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, turn on that alarm bell so you don't miss any future mission. If you're working at Power BI, you're going to have to hire some resources to help you out, or you've got some projects for Power BI. You need to get help from various people. One of the big areas that any Power BI developer has to work with is the ability to source information from different places around your organization and bring that into your reports. Here are some questions that I really like to ask around sourcing and some answers that I would expect to see. Hey, welcome to Chris BI. My name is Chris Wagner. How the heck are you doing today? I'm doing great, man. Awesome. Hey, I've got some questions for you around sourcing information. We're going to start with something basic. Want to know, what's your experience when it comes to working with SQL language? I've been working with SQL for 20 years. What are the three main components inside of a SQL statement? Select, from, and where. What type of thing would you put into a where statement? I'd put any limits that I'd have on the transactions or the records that I want to get back. For example, maybe I only want active records, or I only want records from North America. How do you handle nulls? Or when it comes to analytics, nulls and attributes just kind of leave as is. When it comes to business keys, we don't leave business key as a null. We always default it to either a -1, which would be like it's not available, or a -2, where it's a business key that's going to be coming. What are the different types of joins? Different types of joins, we can kind of Google them, but the basic two joins that you use are inner join, which would limit the base table by which table you're joining to, or a left join, which would say I want everything in the base table and then the records from the table I'm joining to where the join conditions match. Can we talk about grouping? Why you'd use a group by statement? I'd use a group by statement anytime I'm trying to do aggregates, like I want to do the number of transactions or the amount of sales by business unit or by salesperson. It's something I use often when it comes to validating the data that I have to ensure that the records I'm getting match the source systems that I'm pulling it from. How you'd validate that the query you've written is right and it's right to build out your query. I'm always validating as I write my joins, as I build out my queries. I'm always validating back to the source system. Every time I add in a join, I make sure that I'm not accidentally duplicating records or that I'm not losing records when I shouldn't be. If I do an inner join and there's no matching records, or I've created the join wrong, I'll return no records as part of my query. Let's transition from SQL. Let's go over to what's your experience with Power Query. I've been working in Power Query for quite a while. I've been using it since it was in Excel. I think it's an incredible citizen data engineering tool that is now broadly available. Do you know what language Power Query was written? Power Query is written in the M language. What are some of the more powerful transformations that you can do inside of Power Query? One of the big ones that's much easier to do inside of Power BI is pivoting or unpivoting of values. If you're using Power Query to source files out of SharePoint or OneDrive or an online resource, what's one of the common mistakes that people make when sourcing these files? The most common problem people have when it comes to sourcing files from SharePoint Online or OneDrive is that they map it through their C drive instead of mapping it through the web SharePoint or OneDrive path. If you're using Power Query to source from an on-prem data source and you want to be able to refresh it automatically in the service, what do you need? If you're trying to connect Power BI to anything on-prem or even potentially remotely in the cloud, you need a Power BI gateway. And if you're going to be using a Power BI gateway, what's something that you have to be mindful of when you configure your source inside of Power Query to ensure that you can use the gateway? Most common mistake when using a Power BI gateway is not having the gateway shared to you, so you're not going to be able to access it no matter what. That's number one. Number two is not having the exact case sensitivity that the gateway was defined as inside of your connections in your Power BI report. They'll just never align. Can you talk to me about what types of things you do when it comes to adding a column, how you do that inside of Power Query? There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it. You can do a custom column. My favorite way to do it is column by example, kind of cobble it together and then piece that code together so I can kind of grow and learn more about Power Query and the M language as I'm developing. Describe for me how you would load multiple files from the same location. Loading multiple files from one folder is pretty common. The big thing you do is you define the get from a folder, and then you're going to be running through all the files inside of that folder and appending them onto the bottom of each of the files inside of your Power Query execution. What are some of the things that you keep in mind when you're loading data into Power Query? I want to make sure that I'm filtering down my data as early as possible and only selecting the columns that I need to be bringing into my analytics. If I said we want to make sure that your Power Query folds, what does that mean to you? Query folding is one of the most powerful pieces of Power Query. What that does is Power Query will write a query that executes on that host system for a lot of different sources. That's called query folding because they'll fold that query back to that source. Let's say you want to set up an incremental refresh of a data set in Power BI. Have you done that before? Yeah, I've set up incremental refresh a number of times in the past. Do you know the parameters you need to use in order to set up an incremental refresh inside of Power BI? There's two parameters that has to be range start and range end. Thank you so much for coming in today. It was a pleasure meeting with you. I'm really looking forward to us having the potential to work together in the future. Let me know if you have any questions for me. Hey, it's been great talking to you. My only question for you is, when can I start? Those are a series of questions that I'd ask frequently when it comes to working inside of Power BI, when I want to understand about that person's ability to source information from databases, from files, from different areas inside of Power BI, and then shape it, transform that information. It's really important to remember that not every BI analyst or person that you're going to interview is going to know the answers to all of the questions that you have. What you're looking for is a general sense of competency along the areas that interest you most and the passion to go out, learn, and work through any challenges that someone may encounter. That second part, being able to work through challenges and issues, is going to be potentially more important for the success of that individual in business intelligence than already knowing how to do whatever the task is. Look for those qualities in the people that you're interviewing. Don't write off people that didn't check a box or two or didn't know how to do something or another. Look for those innate qualities that they may bring that are beyond that technical knowledge. All right. I hope you find this helpful. We're going to be going over some additional questions in future videos as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you have other questions about what your favorite question is around sourcing Power BI data. I'd love to hear that so we can add that into our list and make a comprehensive list of questions to ask people. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great day. Peace.